you were a personal trainer. You don't look like a personal trainer. You have to understand that there is a balance in everything. So how much you're willing to give is how much you're willing to get. Okay, so, and you just have to accept that. And I think acceptance is one of the big things that the world in general, people in general, find very difficult to do.
So, Chris, I know you from 2014.
Wow, long time, huh?
Long time. And that time you were the owner and a strength coach for the company Strength.
Yeah, I was. Well, look, first off, thank you very much for having me here. It's a real privilege and lovely to see you again. Yeah, like you say, I mean, 2000, so Strength started 2013, went through until 2018, I think, 2019. So that's when we had the personal training space and obviously when we first met.
Yep. And for those who don't know, you are my mentor when it came to the gym. I really liked, I got to learn a lot from you. You used to start it up really early, and that was my first time working so early.
Yeah, they were early mornings.
But then it did get me really excited about stuff because you had the rest of the day to plan and do whatever you want.
Well, you did. I had the rest of the day to try and wear as many hats as were possible. It's as happens when you're running your own business. I think it's one of the things that that you very quickly get to realize is that as much as you might think that there's going to be more time, there's actually less because it's yours. And certainly with Strength, where we had overheads and a couple of staff and this and the other, there's a lot of other things that have to go on behind the scenes to be able to get people through the door and obviously make the business a success. So yeah, it was tough. It was a tough 5 years, I remember.
But I got to learn a lot from that, Chris. And I really like you as a person as well because you're very methodical. You plan things way ahead, and time is something that you really respect. So yeah, that got me into respecting time as well. So
yeah. Yeah, well, I'm glad I was able to help in some way. And look, I mean, as I say, as a entrepreneur, if that's what I was, then I think you're only ever as good as the people who are supporting you. And obviously, my wife was the biggest supporter. In fact, that business set up, I'm not entirely sure I told her before we actually kind of agreed that we were going to start that business. So she was very supportive. And people like yourself, I mean, I couldn't have gone away if I didn't have people that I could trust and people I knew that would, had the same sort of values as me, to kind of carry the mantle whilst I was away on holiday with my family, or, if I got sick or whatever. So, I think, what's the latest, what do they call that? Solopreneur, isn't it? I mean, I don't think anybody does anything in this world truly alone. I think it's, everything is supported. And I'm a big believer in connectedness. I think you meet people at the right time. Again, going back to my wife, I mean, I turned a corner and met my wife. I'd never had no connection with her whatsoever. Turned a corner, and I think sometimes people come into your lives when they're supposed to. And I think, if you truly believe in something, then other people will get behind it as well. And, Strength was tough. It was my first real gig as, out on my own, running my own business. Certainly with the kind of overheads and people to pay and rent to pay. But I think, what it showed me was that if you believe it, if you believe in it, then that passion comes through and people buy into people. And if you're passionate about what you're doing, I think that kind of gives some, you can give some of that passion to other people as well. So, I mean, I'm always happy to help, and I'm glad that you feel like I helped you. I know for sure you helped me, so I think we're probably evens there.
For those who don't know you or much about you,
yeah,
how long have you been in the UAE? And you mentioned your wife. So
yeah.
Your family is also here?
Yes, yeah, my family's here. So myself and my wife Lucy. So we arrived on Halloween of 2007. Okay. So whether that's premonition of anything, I don't know. But yeah, we landed 2007, October 31st, and. The reason that we're here, I mean, Lucy's family had spent some time in the Middle East in Oman when she was in her early 20s. So her family had an affinity for the Middle East. I'd managed to kind of reinvent myself as a personal trainer, done all the courses in the UK just prior to us coming out. When we first met, we both traveled a bit, talked about where we wanted to live abroad and experience, other cultures. So, when the opportunity came, I managed to find a job as a PT over here, 2007, and kind of, it's kind of rumbled on since then. We were girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever you want to call it, when we got here. We've got married here. My son was born here. I've been here, like I say, 16 years now. Feels as much like home as anywhere ever has. It's all my son knows, although he's a little enamoured of the UK, although he only ever sees it when it's sunny. But yeah, and that was it. I wanted to be a personal trainer, so I was very fortunate. I worked in the wellness centre in DIFC, just as it opened in the Capital Club. There were 7 or 8 of us came over. All the other guys very much more experienced than I was. I learnt a ton from those guys, and they were very generous with their time and their knowledge. It's health and fitness has been a passion for me for a very long time, way before I became a personal trainer. I worked in leisure centres in the UK, did various kind of crazy events and whatever, but I think when you meet people for whom this is a profession, and when I got here, I mean, oh my God, it's like the Wild West, right? The guys would be selling houses one day and PTing the next day, and I think it's changed a lot. There's a lot of really, really good trainers here now. Back then, it wasn't particularly. I don't think the pool of talent was particularly deep. I was very lucky that I was in with a bunch of guys who were very talented, very knowledgeable, and really knew how to put programs together, and I learnt a lot from them. And then what did I do? So worked there for a bit. Then I managed the wellness centre for the Capital Club for a little while. Then I freelanced. Going to people's homes and gyms and whatever, which again, it's everything has its pros and cons, right? When you're in a gym and you're working and you're having to give some of the money to other people, you think, oh, I could keep all the money for myself, but then you forget this travel time and all these things. So, and then eventually, a guy that I knew back then, James, he found this spot it was the football centre now, back then. And the owner, manager, Anwar, was keen to have a facility or to expand their offering. So he offered us some space. I remember we literally, what's that football called? The really little courts. Oh God, it's really big in Europe. I can't remember. Futsal. Okay. Yeah. So he had some futsal courts that weren't being used. And so he said, look, you can have this space. We used some of the futsal courts to actually make the gym, the walls of the gym. I remember we drilling them into the floor. Did everything on a shoestring, just got secondhand kit, but and then launched. And I think what made Strength a success, what success it did have, was the fact that we were very, very focused on designing programs. So progression was our thing, and over time you progress and you build strength, or you build hypertrophy, or you build an aesthetic that you're looking for, or endurance, or whatever it is. And it was successful. My wife tells me to tell myself it was successful. I think a lot of times when you run your own business, you can be your own worst critic. But look, we had some success. We had some incredibly loyal customer base, and I'm still in touch with a number of those people. And that was my journey. And that's what I'd always wanted. I'd always wanted my own gym. And when I think about strength now, I mean, I love the place. I love spending time there. I trained myself there. I trained other people there. I had so many good memories. It was tough because it was early mornings, late nights. I mean, sometimes I didn't see my son awake for a week, which, when he's little, you feel like you're being dragged in two different ways. And then, oh, that's right. So then the football centre, Just Play as it is now, they wanted to take the facility over. So I sold it to them, managed it for them for a little while, but you're in what was your gym, managing it for someone else. It just, I don't know, didn't feel right. So, and also, I'm 55 this year. I'm not that I feel old, but the early mornings, the late nights, the constant kind of worry around money, and and also the responsibility towards my family was a big draw for me, and eventually, with the selling of strength, but still working there, I just thought it was time to get out, get a proper job, as they say. So I was very fortunate. And this is the thing about serendipity, and us meeting and still, being friends. This time on me meeting my wife, I'm a big believer in serendipity, and the way that the universe is connected. And so anyway, my wife had seen this advert for a job. It was this country manager for a attestation company. And I was like, what am I going to do with this? I'm a personal trainer. They don't want me. And so I ummed and ahed, and eventually I was like, no, I need to kind of make this. And this was the only thing that had kind of come across my desk. And so I applied. I think on the weekend, the Saturday or the Sunday, we sent my CV and my covering letter. My wife helped me with that. In on the Monday, the guy Matt Lawless, he contacted me. He said, "Look, I've already shortlisted, but I'm interested by your CV, and I'm interested by your covering letter, and if you can come in this afternoon, and I'll see you. And if you can't, well, I'm heading back to the UK." So I made the effort. I went in, saw him. We got on really well. Wasn't your kind of usual interview. I think when you're a personal trainer, you don't own many shirts, and the shirts you do own don't usually button up at the top. So I was, throttling myself with this shirt, and he was like, "Take the tie off, undo the top button, and relax." And I spent 4 years being a country manager for Vital Certificates here, and absolutely brilliant part of my journey because it was a really supportive environment. Matt's an amazing person who, it's his business, but he treats everybody, the cliche, you treat him like family, but genuinely, he's one of those people, he will do anything, go above and beyond to help you out. Saw something in me that I didn't see in me, mentored me, helped me see my potential and my skills. And, I worked to help them kind of through the pandemic. And then, I'd been with them 4 years, kind of, things were starting to slow down for me. And I got approached with an offer of more money, and I went for that. And, unfortunately, that didn't kind of really work out. I did about a year or so. So we're coming up pretty much to today. So I've literally, I think my last official day at my last company was on Monday. Yeah. And so now, as of this moment in time, I am the director and founder of In-Cre-Mental, which is a well-being company focused very much on the principles of, I don't know if you've heard of the books Atomic Habits or Kaizen, this kind of small incremental changes to make a bigger change. And so that's what I'm launching now. So that's that's where we're at.
That is quite a journey, actually.
It is quite a journey.
and in all that time, you still managed to keep yourself fit.
Well, I don't know if all that time. I'm not as fit as I was when I was in the gym, but when you're in the gym, from 6 a.m. till 8 p.m, then there's, like you say, there's time in there that you can spend training, and the training equipment is right around you. I mean, we were saying just before we started this, one of the biggest eye openers for me when I left strength, when I left the fitness industry, was I'd spent 10 years telling people everybody can find an hour, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times a week, whatever it is. And I think the biggest shock to me was how limited your time becomes when you work for a salary, when you have a family, when you have responsibilities to your wife, your spouse, your partner, whoever that is. It's quite incredible how the time gets chipped away at. And there was a time after where I was trying to learn the ropes of the new role and these kind of things, where I didn't train a great deal at all. And the thing for me, I mean, we might go into it later on, but I've had some mild kind of mental health challenges myself, and exercise has always been one of those things that's kind of kept all those the darker thoughts at bay. And that really impacted my how I felt about myself. And so I remember I joined a men's group. A lovely guy called Jacob had set up this men's group, actually not far from where I live. I started going there. It's just a place for guys to get together, meet, and he would facilitate. So we do meditation, or we do various bits and pieces, and an opportunity for you to kind of talk about the things that you were struggling with that maybe you couldn't, or you didn't feel like you wanted to burden other people with. And it was a really good thing for me. And he I remember him saying one evening, he was like, well, what is it that's the issue at the moment? And I'm like, well, I'm not training at all. And training's like, it's a part of me. I mean, for the last however many years, since I was 15 or 16, I've trained regularly. And now I'm not. And he was like, well, why don't you train? And I'm like, where's the time? Like, I've got a baby and a wife and a job and a this and a that and the other. And he's like, well, why don't you train for a minute? It's like, you train for a minute and you've trained, right? And I was like, well, yeah, but it's not. He's like, no, hold on. You want to train? You train for a minute. You do a minute's worth of squats. You do a minute's worth of lunges. You do a minute's worth of press ups. Whatever. Like, you do a minute, get up. What have you done? You've trained. So, and it was a real eye opener for me. It really kind of made me reassess how I saw fitness and how I think. Like, I don't want to demonize the fitness industry because I don't think it deserves it. I think the fitness industry, there are billions of dollars involved in the fitness industry. And I think maybe the focus, maybe not on an individual level. I think most personal trainers want to give their best. They want to help their clients, whatever. But maybe on a broader scale, a more corporate scale, the fitness industry is about money. It's not getting bums on seats, right? And you get people in through the doors. They pay the memberships. I mean, we all know, this stat, whatever it is, every time it's different, but, somewhere around 50 to 75% of people buy a membership and never use it. And that's what the fitness industry relies on, because they oversell memberships and that's the model, right? That's not about proactively helping people to get fitter or to get healthier, even more importantly. So I think, when you're an individual, when you're, whether you are a trainer or you're not a trainer, you're just somebody who wants to be healthier or whatever, gyms are a great place. I love a gym environment. I love being in gyms. I love weights, but those places are convenient. They save you buying the kit, but they are not places to necessarily help you get to be a healthier human being. Okay. And I think one of the big, like I said, when Jacob said to me, all it takes is a minute, do a minute. Because then when you've done a minute, you do a minute, 5 days in a week or 6 or 7, you can do a minute, 3-4 times, however, but you'll want to do more. You start, and this is part of where In-Cre-Mental came from. I mean, it's this idea that you can make small changes, and all it takes is those small changes. And if you do them consistently and you're patient, what you'll see is improvement, and improvement breeds improvement. It's like anything. It's like a snowball. A snowball rolling down a hill. It's like a pearl. Pearl's just a piece of grit inside an oyster, but over time it builds and it becomes this beautiful thing. And it's true for me. I mean, like now I don't put a time on, I know I'm not going to train. Like I have a few bits and pieces of kit at home. All right. So I adapt my training around that and I understand some of the principles, but it's not rocket science. If I can get it, most people can get it. So and I think sometimes I'll do 20 minutes, sometimes I'll do 5 minutes, just so I know that I've done something. And at the end of the day, I say, did I train today? Yes, I trained today. Big tick in my box. And it makes me want to train tomorrow. Right? If I get to the end and I'm like, I didn't train today, there's that negative thing. And maybe it's more me than other. I'm sure lots of people feel like it, but it's, you positive reinforcement helps, right? So when you can say, "Oh, look at me! I train," because no one's going to say how often, how long are you training for? What exercises did you do? What rest periods have you got in there? What tempo do you use? It's like, do you train? How often do you train? That's all it is. So you train 1 minute a day, you train an hour a day. You still both trained. And a really interesting thing. So that, as I say, that was one really big eye opener for me, is that it doesn't have to be this kind of. You got to know what you're after, right? I mean, you are not going to look like Arnold Schwarzenegger if you're training a minute a day. It's never going to happen unless you're already Arnold Schwarzenegger, in which case it's pointless. So, but I think you have to understand that there is a balance in everything. So how much you're willing to give is how much you're willing to get. Okay. So, and you just have to accept that. And I think acceptance is one of the big things that the world in general, people in general, find very difficult to do. We quite often we look outwards and I can't do it because of this, or I can't do it because of that, or but. So I'm an NLP practitioner, and you'll have to forgive me because I will jump all over the place until you tell me to stop. So I'm an NLP practitioner, and when I did that course, I remember one thing really stuck out to me, and that was when you take responsibility for everything that happens to you, everything, you have total power. You have all the control. Now, do I believe that I am totally responsible for everything that happens in my life? I'm still not sure, right? But I know that if I choose to give my responsibility away, if I say it's someone else's fault, or I couldn't do it because of, this factor or that factor that is external to me, I'm giving away some of my power. The minute that I choose, that I say, this is my choice, that's all my power. It's all me now. So I can celebrate the highs that I have. I can celebrate or I can commiserate the lows I have, but I know that I made the choices. And for me, that's a massive thing. And, it's tough. It's not easy, because you don't get to point fingers at other people and say, oh, he should have done this or they should have done that. Yeah, of course. I think back to my last job, didn't work out. Now I have to accept my responsibility within that. I'm not saying it's wholly my fault, but I have to take responsibility for my bit of it. And that I can do that means I can walk away from it with my head high and think, okay, it wasn't the right thing for me. I think when we look at, health and fitness and just general well-being, if we start saying, well, I can't do this because of that, and that thing is outside of you, you're giving away the power to make a choice. You're giving away the joy of being able to choose for yourself, to having your own independence. Now, there are always choices, right? Every single situation. I met a fantastic guy yesterday who's UK Special Forces. And he was saying Special Forces, what they do day in, day out, they do situational analysis and they do decision making. And that's what they do. So they'll see a situation, they'll analyze the situation, and they'll make a decision. And they make a decision. They make a choice. Now, sometimes the choice is the right one, and sometimes maybe it doesn't work out how you want it to. But you've made a choice, and that's you own that. Right? And there's a real freedom and liberation in saying, these are my choices. If you don't want to train, don't train. But don't moan about not training, all right? Or choose to train. Right? And you don't have to do a lot. I was listening to a podcast, Dr. Andrew Huberman, one of his podcasts had a guy called Professor Andy Gilpin on, and he was saying, and I didn't know this, but I guess it kind of makes sense, that if you are untrained and you start doing any protocol, you will see benefits in all aspects of fitness. So whether that's strength, whether that's hypertrophy, some muscle growth, endurance, aerobic fitness, whatever. If you're untrained and you start training across the board, it doesn't matter what you do, you will see. So if you train with weights, you'll see aerobic improvement. Okay, you start running or cycling or whatever, you'll see strength improvements because you're untrained already. So, I mean, what better excuse to start training than, oh my God, like right now, I'm going to see the best benefits because I'm going to get everything. When you're a little bit more trained, maybe then you have to be a bit more specific. But, I think it's, as I say, for me these days, my thing's now longevity. I say 55 is, I'm over the hill. But that for me now is the thing. I want to be around as long as I can, as mobile and active as I can be until that moment comes. Because I want to see, we had my son later in life. So, it means I've got to wait longer if I want to see grandkids. So, what better way than to at least try and get myself into position. So, do I want abs? Of course I want abs. Like, who doesn't? But am I willing to make the sacrifices that will get me abs year round? No, probably not. I like ice cream and pizza too much, and and it's not as important to me anymore. So, I think that's as to say a few kind of little nuggets, but I think one of the really interesting thing for me is how our attitudes and our perspectives change as we go through life. And I think sometimes, it's difficult for me because, I am I mean, I keep going on about my age, but I genuinely, I don't feel particularly old, but I understand that I am not the person that I was when I was 20, right? And I'm not like a 20-year-old is now. I think there are some fundamentals with human beings that you can, the foundation of human nature. Outside of that, I mean, we're all about as different as we can possibly be. So, for me to tell somebody, oh, this is what you should be doing, or, oh, I would do it this way. Look, who am I? For me, and again, I'll come back to In-Cre-Mental. The idea behind In-Cre-Mental is it's the individual who makes the choice. You empower people to make their own choices about their own lives. Give them the tools, give them the support network, give them the experts in quotation marks, to assist them. But the individual makes the choice about that individual. Yeah, one of the things that excites me about In-Cre-Mental is that, and one of the reasons that I really wanted to set it up is because I think a lot of the time, you look at the media and you look at, whatever, social media channels or and we're fed this lie of life. What life should look like, what we should look like, what we should earn, what we should, and it puts pressure on people because, with the best will in the world, we are social creatures and we are, influenced by, our social group, by wider society. And that's a good thing, right? I mean, in a lot of ways, that's a good thing. But I think the thing for me was that it's this, you should, or, oh, hey, you could look like this, or whatever it might be. And I think the thing for me is that if you tell somebody, right, you should look like this, and they don't look like that at all, right? If you tell somebody they should be 12% body fat, and at the moment they're 45% body fat, which is massive, but how big a jump is that? Where in their experience or in their mind is that going to be a possibility? And so what I wanted to do with In-Cre-Mental and what I'm hoping to achieve with the company is to bring it back to the individual and say, look, what's your goal? What are the areas of friction for you? What are the areas where, something's good and you want it great, where it's not so good and you want it better? What does that look like to you? And is that something you genuinely believe you could achieve? And if it's not, pull it a little closer, right? If you're 30% body fat and you've decided you want to be 12% body fat, right? Is 12%, do you think genuinely you can achieve that? Well, great if you do. If not, say, well, could I be 25% body fat or could I be 20% body fat? And you just pull it closer. So now you've got your goal and you're clear on your goal. This is, and it's got to be, you've got all those smart, the smart things that we say about goals. It's got to be specific and measurable and all of that stuff. But then you say, right, well, okay, and that's great. That's your goal. And this is where you are right now. How are you going to get there? And it's like, well, even if it's like 30 to 25%, 30 is a lot of body fat. 25% is still a lot of body fat, but it's 5% less. So, that's a good thing. But does somebody who's 30% body fat, they've got to believe they can get there. And then they've got to know how they can get there. So the idea with In-Cre-Mental is that we say, right, in the next 24 hours, what could you do that gets you one step closer to that, half a step closer to that? And then you start mapping those and you say, right, tomorrow, so for this week, what are my things that I'm going to do? What are the things that I commit to? And it's only got to be one thing. Right? If you want to do more, do more. But, for me, make it simple, make it easy, because the hardest thing for the human body or the human mind to do is change habits. We don't like, the brain doesn't like changing habits because it It's, we have habits because they're energy efficient, right? Your brain doesn't want to expend more energy on making changes. One of the kind of backdoor tricks is to make the changes so small your brain almost doesn't realize what's happening until it's happened. Right? So you say to yourself, right, so today I'm going to walk 5,000 steps instead of the 2,000 that I, regularly do. Or maybe I'm going to walk 3, and the day after I might see how I'm going. I might try 3.5 or 4. And you just map that out for them. At the end of the week, you say, how many of my things did I hit? That's awesome. Is my goal still the same? Okay, fine. If it is, great. If it's not, it's something else. But you've got a destination, but you need a map to get to a destination, right? You need directions to get to a destination. And you need to take that. Everything in life is made up of tiny little steps. Everything. Right? And it could be anything from picking up your shopping. Your brain's got to make the decision. You've got to reach down. You've got to close your hands. You've got to stand up. I mean, it's all little steps. But all you think of it is, I've got to pick the shopping up. Don't think about all the little steps because they're so little. So that's the idea behind it. And my feeling is, and I hope I'm right, is that, so this I'm kind of aiming at a corporate. So my kind of gold standard program is this 12-week program. So what we'll do is we'll look at companies and we'll assess kind of where they're at on various metrics, whether that be absenteeism, employee engagement, fulfillment, productivity, profitability, all of the, and see how the company's doing at the moment. Because if the company's doing good, could it be better? If the company's not so great, could it be good? And, so everything can improve, like me, training. I train a minute. Now I train about 30 minutes 4 or 5 times a week now. Right, and that's fine for me. Right? I'll end up doing more, but for the time being, that's what it works within my routine. It works with everything in my life. And so then we look at that and we assess that and we say, look, what do you want it to look like? Because it's not my business, right? I'm just there to help. And then we'll kind of introduce the program, and then dependent on the size of the program, but we want to work in groups of people. We buddy people up, so you're getting some accountability. You start to build a bit of strength in your company culture. And then as we go through the weeks, we do what I've just explained. We say to people, right, what? So we have 7 elements that we look in terms of, what might impact somebody's life and somebody's engagement at work. So, whether it's financial or communities or relationships or health or nutrition or, whatever it might be. And then we say, right, out of those, where's the one which is most important to you right now, or which 2 are most important to you right now? And then they pick whichever ones they want to pick. And then we say, right, well, out of that, what are you going to do in the next 24 hours to make it a little bit better? Mm-hmm. Right? And like I say, I mean, this is not anything that I've dreamt up. This is, there's a lot of science behind it. There's a lot of people who've written some amazing books about it. For me, it makes sense. It works for me. I do some of this stuff for myself. And obviously at the end we reassess and what we look for is that the employee engagement in what they're doing is better. And, as numerous people like Richard Branson and various other kind of, very successful business people, it's the people that make the difference. Right? So once the people are happy, you've got them engaged, and that you're seen to be supporting the areas in their life outside. It doesn't mean that you've got to kind of give them finance is one of their issues. It doesn't mean you've got to give them a pay rise. It's just acknowledging that they're struggling. And are there ways that either you can help or In-Cre-Mental can help, or because what I'm planning with In-Cre-Mental is to have a community outside. So for me, I want to look at the low-hanging fruit. Yeah, what are the things right now that we can change, and how do we change them? And then as people get, start to see their own successes. I need to get a different example because ex-PT and all he talks about is bloody fitness, but it's fitness is a good one, because lots of people, we used to have people come in the gym, right? Yeah, I want to be fitter. Yeah. Well, doesn't mean anything to anybody, least of all the person who's saying it. So you've got to be clear on what you want to, so let's say that person wants to get to a point where they run a 5K. Okay. And they've never run before. And, so you work on that through the program, and they get, fit, and they walk more, and they feel stronger, and they feel great, and they run a 5K. Awesome. Right. Now, if they get, a real buzz out of that, and they suddenly decide, right, actually, this is really important to me. I really want to kind of see how far I can take this. Then the program's probably not the right, maybe, but maybe not. But what I want to do is build a community around the program of individuals and businesses who can assist deeper. So when you want that kind of deeper dive into something, so with that particular example, you find somebody who trains runners, right? And you need to make sure that they're decent people, their values align with with mine and with the companies, but so that you can feel confident sending people to them and say, like, go, and because one of the things that really used to frustrate me when I was in the fitness industry was how closed off so many people were. So many trainers, because you're worried that other trainers are going to take your clients, don't want to collaborate or don't want to form a community. And I think it's, I don't know, like, I've been out of the industry for 5 years. It might be completely different now, but it used to frustrate me when I was there, because we need communities. Like I say, we're social creatures, and look, there's enough people in this world, let alone in this country, let alone in this emirate, for all of the personal trainers to have a decent living. Right? So why not collaborate? Why not share more knowledge? And I know there are organizations like Reps who try to do that, and that's great. I think personal trainers, I don't know if it's, there's something about personal trainers that makes them more paranoid, but look, that's what I want to do. And I've always seen health as health. It's a holistic thing. Like, fitness is a part of health. Nutrition is a part of health. Your psychology and how you see it, your emotions and the stresses in your life, the struggle for money, the worry about jobs, the this, that, the other. They're all part. Every bit of it is linked. Right? You never going to have the best workout, if everything else around you is, not going great. So I think for me, it's that idea that I want this to be something that not only helps individuals and thereby the businesses within which they work, but that helps the wider community of people who, and look, I've been, like a couple of days I've been doing this now, and I have had nothing but support. Like the well-being and wellness, whatever community you want to say it is, and even further than that, there are some great communities. The British Business Group, which I'm a member of, is incredible. It's an incredible organisation and very supportive. So I know I'm in the right place. Because I can't stop talking about this stuff. And then literally ideas are dribbling out of my ears at the moment. And I'm just really excited about the whole thing, because I feel like I've got, I found my purpose in life. And if off the back of that I can help other people find their purpose, or at least just get to a place where they're a little less stressed, or more able to be more present, I mean, meditation's been brilliant for me. But again, one of those things, you know, and I only do that Headspace app. Right? I do that 10 minutes every morning. I think I looked at it the other day. I've 13,000 minutes or something, and it's only, you know, and still I have days where I can't concentrate. But it's just that drip, drip, drip effect of you just do it. You're patient. You're consistent. You're patient. You're consistent. You're patient. You're consistent, and you keep going and you keep going, and then boom, you know. I mean, it's another one. Like, so learning a language. So I'm rubbish at language. I'm British, so obviously I'm rubbish at languages. I've been trying to learn Spanish for about 8 years, right, on one of these, on the Duolingo app. And, you know, it's gone good and bad and worse. And, you know, and there are times I've just like, it's like I haven't learned anything. And literally probably in about the last year, it's all started to click. That's 8 years of, you know, 10, 15 minutes a day, you know, when I remember to do it. And it just makes me realize that everything is about, you break it down into small enough steps, you focus on the steps, and you'll get where you're going to. You know, at one point stage, you're going to lift your head. Oh, like me. So we had, there was some packaging or something that we had at home, written in Spanish. Like the instructions were written in Spanish. They were also written in English underneath, but I didn't see that. And I genuinely, my mother's life, and I read it in Spanish, and I was like, I understand that. Oh my God. Like, I understand it. You know, and it was like, I think it was like some ant gel or something. So it wasn't like, you know, I don't know, the boy takes the dog for a walk. It was like, you know, it was yeah. So I was, like I say, I mean, you know, for me, this will work for me because I can't even envisage it not working. I don't know how it'll work in, you know, in all the details, but this is, this is my vocation. And I think all of the journey, you know, the 16 years I've been here, the however many odd years it was before that back in the UK, you know, all of it leads you to places. I'm like I said to you before, I'm a big believer that things happen for a reason. And a lot of the time, the really tough stuff is the stuff you need. You know, I mean, I've had numerous examples of that in my life. But you get to look back, you know, you get to look back and you get to see what it did for you. And, you know, the challenging times are the ones that make you grow, you know. And I think a lot of the time it's, you know, we think it's nice to be comfortable. But, you know, comfortable, you're just dying with your eyes open, I think. You know, that's my personal opinion. I think when, you know, it's the tough stuff that gets you where you want. And this is going to be tough. Like, I'm excited, super excited, but it's going to be really tough. Like, I'm not earning any money right now, you know, and that's one of my triggers. So, you know, I have to be aware of that. But I think the thing is, like I say, you know, and I can't explain it any other way than it's a vocation, and it's something that I plan to be doing until, you know, until I can't do anything anymore. So
let me summarize, Chris. Although you have spoken and given a lot of examples with exercise, this In-Cre-Mental is not only fitness, but fitness is a part of it if the individual chooses to.
Yes, yeah.
You also said that the push that you got to start In-Cre-Mental is because you did have some challenges with your mental wellness.
Yeah.
So this is a holistic program.
Yeah. So the idea is, and again, look, you know, this is, I'm not, I've never hugged a tree. You know, I like crystals. Crystals are nice to look at, but you know, that's it as far as I'm concerned. This is a business for me. Okay. And what I want to do is help other people's businesses. Now, my experience is you have a happy, healthy, engaged workforce and you get great results. right? If you can have a profitable business, and the people aren't engaged and they're not happy and they're not healthy, but how much better would your business be if those people were happy, healthy, engaged, right? And again, I think it comes down, you've got to look at you build things on foundations, right? And the foundations are really, really strong, okay, or they're not. And if they're not, you're going to run into trouble at some point. So for me, the idea behind In-Cre-Mental, and I do want to open it up at some point to individuals. That's one of the ideas running around in my head at the moment, is how do I do that? But for the time being, for the launch and how it initially will work, is that this is about helping businesses be better. Yeah. Because, businesses are a spectrum like everything. Some businesses are great, some businesses aren't. Most of them sit in the middle, but a little improvement could be, could result in a big financial improvement. And so the idea within In-Cre-Mental is that you look at the individuals within your workplace, and you look at the workplace and the environment that you've created, and, the leadership team that you have, and, is everybody pulling in the same direction? Well, if they're not, why are they not? Right. And I genuinely believe that a lot of the time issues inside of work are related to things outside of work, as are things outside of work related to things inside of work. I know, I've had difficult conversations with people in work. I'm not one of those people who can leave it at the door. I go home, I'm irritated, and that, my son sees that, or my wife sees that, and they think it's, I'm irritated at them, and then that builds up into, or I've had a bad morning at home and go into work and I'm not focused and I'm not as productive as I could be. It's not to say that the businesses that I've worked in, all the businesses, as far as I'm aware, that I've worked in have been profitable businesses, right? But could they be better? Of course. And would it, for what could amount to a very minimal investment in your people? And I think this is one of the things that businesses, are getting on board with, and I think are going to need to get on board with more and more as the years go by, is this idea that, your people are the thing. They are the ones who interact with the customer, on whatever level that might be. Now, if they are not happy, how good is that interaction going to be? Or, compared to if they were happy. So I think, that's the thing for me, is we look holistically at the individual, but we give the individual the power, give the individual the choice. What are the things that are important to you right now? What's the thing that's really important to the leadership team, to the owners of the business? What are the things that are important? Okay, if it's, we want to be more productive. Well, what's the metric? What's the thing behind productivity? If you don't have a productive business, what is that? That's your workforce. Your workforce is not productive. So then you need to look at your workforce. Right? Now, I don't know about you, but somebody's boot on my neck never makes me feel like I want to do something for them, go above and beyond, work harder, or, throw in an idea about how things might be improved. I have somebody who respects me, who sees my value, recognizes my value to the business. I'm loyal for life, right? So for me, I think, a lot of businesses are going to have to take a real hard look at, are we happy with just being who we are? Or would we be happier if the business improved? And I think for any business to improve, you have to look at your workforce and say, right, those are the things that, we have control over. Right? What is that serenity prayer, isn't it? From, you have the courage to change the things that can be changed, and, the wisdom to see the difference, or whatever it is. But I think you've got to look at the workforce, and you've got to say, how do we make these people more engaged in what they're doing, more productive, more committed to the company's vision. Yeah, I mean, I look at some of the companies I've worked for, I didn't know what their vision was other than, to get more money. But I mean, it's like, I want to be a bit fitter. I want more money. Well, what does that mean? You get another dirham, you're a bit richer. Right? So that's the thing for me with incremental. It's this idea that by focusing on the workforce and through incremental change, through these ideas of atomic habits and the the Kaizen theory and process, you take small steps. Because I had a really interesting conversation with a guy called Andy Fieldhouse, who's a team building expert over here. And he was saying that he drew out this graph for me. It was like the forgetful curve. So like, when you learn something, you know it, right? And then over time, unless you use it, just, to the point where you barely know any of it anymore, right? So if you can reinforce what you know, little, it doesn't drop, it stays. And you keep that knowledge. And I think, it's very true for everything. Is you need to pay attention to the things that are important to you at that moment in time. You cannot optimize everything all the time, right? It's just not possible, I don't believe. But and that's why, the kind of incremental model is something that what I want to do is, is do these programs and I do kind of half days and full days and to give people a sense of it. But the program itself, for me, it's something you could do the rest of your life. And what we'll be doing is for the companies that are signed up or that are committed to it, you build champions into the workplace. So somebody starts to champion this so that it can continue. Actually, unlike life, because life has a, dependent on your religious views, but life has a stop point. Yeah. At some point, you stop living this life. But in between there, everything is constantly changing. Constantly changing. The body you had 7 years ago is not the same body you have now. Like on a cellular level, everything's changed, right? So, and I think what I want to do with incremental and the way that I want to kind of get people committed to it is it's not the end point. The goal's great. You need something to focus on, but it's the little steps. And when you're there, or maybe even before you get there, you realize, actually, that's not the thing that was most important to me. Now this is the thing that's more important to me. So how do I get to there? Or, actually, I've got to there. I'm happy with there. I'm going to do enough to maintain. Like, with fitness, like, it's so much easier to maintain than it is to get to there. So I'm happy with that one. I'm just going to keep that one ticking over. And now I'm going to focus on something else. But it's what is it that's important to you right now? What are the areas of friction for you in your life? What are the things that, if you could make them better, you would make them better? If you had the support structure in place, how, what would you do? And that's the thing, the support structure is there, because, and genuinely it is, unless you are wholly alone in the world, and this is one of the big things for me. I mean, one of my big focus points for this year has been asking for help, because I'm terrible at asking for help. I've spent most of my life thinking I should be able to do everything by myself, and it's ridiculous, utterly ridiculous, because no one can do, anything. But let me put this: you can't even get dressed by yourself, right? Because somebody else had to make the clothes. Right, so unless you've made your clothes, I guess some people might have done, but you get the point, right? It's everything is with support, and that's what I want incremental to be. I want incremental to make businesses better by making people better in the way they see or they perceive better. And it is all about perspective, right? everything's about perspective. You are your thoughts. What you think you are, that's what you'll become. I've seen this so many times, like me personally, like, the amount of stories where I'm like, I've told myself this story and now I believe it, and now this is who I am. I told myself for years I was rubbish with money. Guess what? I didn't have any savings. I used to spend all my money and was constantly scrabbling around at the end of the month, right? But it's a story that I tell myself, and then you just act out that story. So if you tell yourself, well, actually, I'm really good at, I'm good. I can save money. I can save a bit of money every month. You might only save a little bit, but you're still saving money, and it for me, and I don't know, maybe I'm in a privileged position, but I don't, I think it's perspective, like we said before about getting fit, it doesn't mean anything. Like, yes, I'm fit, right? But what does that mean? Like, I keep myself in check. Like, we could, thank my parents for how I look now, or we could thank the work that I've put in, or it could be a combination of all of it. There'll be lots of people who look at me and go, you were a personal trainer. You don't look like a personal trainer, and that's fine. Like, for a lot of people, I don't look like a personal trainer. I was, I'm still qualified, so I am. But I think it's this whole thing of, everything is connected. You can't optimize everything, but you can optimize some things. But you have to pay attention and you have to be present within them. Yeah, I mean, again, if we talk a little bit about, my kind of mental health challenges, and they're nowhere near, as severe as I know a lot of people have had. But a lot of it was based around, feelings that I'd failed in the past and that I was failing in the present and I was failing in the future. And so it's depression and anxiety the future and depression the past, right? But it's just a story. So many people, I remember a really good friend of mine, really successful guy. We unfortunately lost touch, but he was very successful, flying around, doing big business, earning lots of money, whatever. And I always used to think, I've never got any money. I wish I was a bit like Nigel, And that was really his name, by the way. And we were talking one time, and we've been mates for years. And we were talking one time, and he's like, God, I wish my life was like yours. And I'm like, the what? What are you talking? And I'm like, he's like, man, you would not believe. Like, it's just stress, constant. And you just seem all the time like chilled out. And like I say, it's all about perspective, right? And I think, like we say about being fit, well, if you need to quantify things, and you need to quantify. If you tell yourself a story, ask yourself if it's really true. I think that's one of the best takeaways anybody's ever given me. Is like, you start telling yourself a story that impacts you negatively. You ask yourself if it's true, even if it impacts you positively. Ask yourself, is it true? Because are you taking the actions that reinforce that positive perspective? But the I'm rubbish with money one, told myself for years, never had any money. Right now, I'm debt free. I'm kind of, touch wood. If this all goes well, then but it's what it's what do you want for yourself? I've got to a point in my life. I mean, those people who are watching, listening, or whatever that, have gone past 50, they'll know, or maybe have gone past 40. I mean, around 40s, I really stopped caring what other people thought about me too much. I mean, obviously I still do a little bit, but, and also I don't I'm not a big one for things. Like I'm not that into cars, not that into watches. You know, I don't need these kind of things. I know it's important for some people, and that's, again, you know, it's not a judgment. It's just not for me. But you know, it's being clear on who do you want to be, what kind of person do you want to be, you know, what are your values, and then saying, well, am I that person right now? And if I'm not, what steps could I take to be that person? What could I do in the next 24 hours gets me one step closer to being that person? And it's a journey. And it's a journey that will go on until it stops. And, you know, we all know where it stops, right? So I think, you know, yeah, I'm rambling now.
No, not at all. Because for me, I found a lot of information with this conversation, Chris. You have a lot of experience in fitness, yes, and from fitness to a corporate life, and you know how difficult it is for a person in a corporate life who have family here,
yeah,
as do you, and how they manage time, how they manage their finances, their work-life balance, the things that they have to do at work, and then go back and be a parent, be a partner,
yeah,
all of that. And with the challenges that you faced over the years, I think, like you said, that's what started you to start In-Cre-Mental. And I'm sure that a lot of people could relate. I can relate. And we wish you nothing but the best, because I think you are taking incremental steps towards being where you want to be.
I hope so. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
So if anyone wants to reach out to you and ask you more about this for their company and to increase their employees' wellness,
yeah,
and also productivity,
yeah,
how do they do that?
Best way for me at the moment is either they can email me. So that's info at in-cre-mental.com, or I'm on LinkedIn. So Chris Miller, In-Cre-Mental on LinkedIn. Again, with the 2 hyphens, because incremental, it was already taken, but I like it because it's, you know, there's different things that actually really resonate with me, like in is involved and all of these different things. But yeah, so I think LinkedIn, In-Cre-Mental, the website is a kind of an ongoing process, or via the In-Cre-Mental business page.
And I will put the links on the description below, so they don't really have to, they just have to click it.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for your time.
No,
Chris.
my absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for inviting me on. It's been an absolute honor and lovely to see you again.
Likewise, Chris.
Cheers.